The stadium lights blazed, but Ethan Carter felt colder than ever. At 17, he stood on the sidelines, his red and white jersey clinging to his sweat-soaked skin, as his teammates' whispers cut deeper than the autumn wind. They'd turned on him, their star quarterback. The moment his truth slipped out, he was gay. It started with a rumor, sparked in the locker room after a late practice. Ethan had been careless, texting Jamie, his best friend since middle school, about the feelings he'd buried for years. A teammate, Brody, had glimpsed the message over his shoulder. "I can't stop thinking about you. It's more than friendship." The words spread like wildfire. By morning, the team's group chat was a battlefield slurs, memes, and venom aimed at Ethan. Coach Harrison, a grizzled man who valued wins over principles, didn't suspend anyone. Instead, he benched Ethan for team morale. The message was clear: Ethan's identity was a liability. Westfield High, nestled in the heart of suburban Ohio, wasn't ready for a gay quarterback. The town lived for Friday night football, where dreams of state championships fueled every conversation. Ethan had carried those dreams for 3 years, throwing perfect spirals and leading the Westfield Wolves to victory after victory. But now, as he watched the team warm up without him, he was an outcast. The stands buzzed with parents and students, some cheering, others whispering about the problem on their team. Ethan's mom, Sarah, sat in the bleachers, her face tight with worry. She'd always supported him, but even she couldn't shield him from this. Jamie appeared beside him, his Letterman jacket slung over one shoulder. "You don't deserve this," he said, his voice low but fierce. At 16, Jamie was smaller than Ethan, with curly black hair and a smile that could light up the darkest moments. They'd been inseparable since 7th grade, when Jamie helped Ethan with algebra and Ethan taught Jamie how to throw a football. Their bond had deepened over time, unspoken feelings simmering beneath late-night talks and shared secrets. Jamie wasn't out not yet, but he'd been Ethan's rock since the team's betrayal. "I should have kept my mouth shut," Ethan muttered, kicking the grass. "I thought they'd have my back." "They're idiots," Jamie said, his brown eyes flashing. "You're the best player they've got. They'll see it when you're back out there." Ethan wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at his chest. The team had a crucial game against the Lincoln Hawks tonight, the semifinal for the state championship. Without Ethan, the Wolves were faltering. Brody, the backup quarterback, was decent but lacked Ethan's precision. The scoreboard showed 7-10, with the Hawks in the lead. Ethan's absence was a wound the team couldn't hide. As the first quarter ended, Coach Harrison called Ethan over. "You're going in," he grunted, avoiding eye contact. "Don't screw this up." Ethan's heart raced. He grabbed his helmet, the familiar weight grounding him. Jamie squeezed his shoulder. "Show them who you are," he whispered. Ethan nodded, stepping onto the field as the crowd's cheers mixed with jeers. Some shouted his name, others hurled insults. He blocked it out, focusing on the play. The Wolves needed a touchdown to stay in the game. The huddle was tense. Brody glared, and a few linemen avoided Ethan's gaze. "Let's run a slant," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the hostility. The center, Malik, a quiet kid who'd stayed neutral, nodded. The others didn't argue. They knew Ethan was their best shot. The ball snapped, and Ethan dropped back, scanning the field. The Hawks' defense rushed hard, but he spotted an opening. He fired a pass to Malik, who broke free for a 20-yard gain. The crowd roared, and for a moment, Ethan felt alive again. But as he jogged back to the huddle, Brody muttered, "Don't think this changes anything, Carter." The second quarter dragged on, with Ethan's plays keeping the Wolves in the fight. He threw another sharp pass, then ran for a first down, dodging tacklers with the agility that had made him a star. But every step felt like a battle not just against the Hawks, but against his own team. They blocked for him, but half-heartedly. They followed his calls, but with resentment. By halftime, the score was tied at 13-13, and Ethan was exhausted not from the game, but from the weight of their rejection. In the locker room, Coach Harrison barked about strategy, ignoring the tension. Ethan sat alone, staring at his cleats. Jamie slipped in, against protocol, and crouched beside him. "You're killing it out there," he said softly. "Don't let them take that from you." Ethan looked up, his green eyes meeting Jamie's. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," he admitted. "It's like I'm fighting everyone." "You're not alone," Jamie said, his hand brushing Ethan's. The touch was brief but electric, a reminder of the feelings they hadn't fully named. Ethan wanted to say more, but the whistle blew, signaling the end of halftime. The third quarter was brutal. The Hawks took the lead, 20-13, after Brody fumbled a handoff. The crowd groaned, and Ethan felt the blame shift to him, even though he hadn't touched the ball. He pushed through, calling a risky play-action pass. It worked. Malik caught a 30-yard throw, tying the game again. But as Ethan jogged off the field, a water bottle sailed from the stands, narrowly missing him. A voice shouted, "Go home, Carter." Sarah stood up in the bleachers, shouting back, but her voice was drowned out. Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to run, to disappear. But Jamie's words echoed, "You're not alone." He glanced at the stands, where Jamie now sat beside Sarah, both watching him with unwavering support. Ethan gritted his teeth. He wasn't done yet. As the fourth quarter began, the air in the stadium crackled with tension. Ethan's every move was scrutinized not just by the Hawks' defense, but by his own teammates and the restless crowd. The score was 20-20, with 7 minutes left. Ethan knew this was more than a game. It was his chance to prove he belonged, not just as a quarterback, but as himself. He called a running play, tucking the ball and sprinting through a gap in the line. The crowd gasped as he juked a linebacker, gaining 15 yards before a brutal tackle sent him sprawling. Pain shot through his ribs, but he stood, waving off the trainer. Brody smirked from the sidelines, muttering to another player. Ethan ignored him, focusing on the next play. He threw a quick pass to Malik, who fought for a first down. The Wolves were inching closer to the end zone, but time was slipping away. Off the field, Jamie watched, his hands clenched. He'd seen Ethan take hits before, but this game felt different. Every tackle seemed personal, every jeer from the crowd a dagger. Beside him, Sarah gripped her scarf, her eyes never leaving her son. "He's stronger than they know," she whispered, more to herself than Jamie. Jamie nodded, but worry gnawed at him. He wanted to run onto the field, to stand between Ethan and the world's cruelty. The Wolves reached the Hawks' 30-yard line with 3 minutes left. Ethan scanned the defense, his breath visible in the chilly air. He called a deep pass, trusting Malik to outrun his coverage. The snap came, and Ethan dropped back, dodging a blitz. He launched the ball, a perfect arc under the stadium lights. Malik leaped, snagging it in the end zone. Touchdown. The crowd erupted, but Ethan heard the undercurrent boos mixed with cheers. The extra point sailed through, putting the Wolves up 27-20. The Hawks fought back, driving down the field with a series of quick passes. With 30 seconds left, they scored, tying the game again. Ethan's heart sank as the Hawks lined up for the extra point. If they made it, the Wolves would need a miracle to win in regulation. The kick went UPenn sailed wide. The score stayed 27-27. Overtime loomed, but Ethan had other plans. The Wolves got the ball with 25 seconds left. Ethan huddled the team, his voice steady despite the exhaustion. "We end this now," he said. "No overtime. We go for the win." Brody scoffed, but Malik nodded, and a few others murmured agreement. Ethan called a trick playa flea flicker that relied on perfect timing. It was risky, but he trusted his instincts. The ball snapped, and Ethan handed off to Malik, who sprinted right, drawing the defense. Malik pitched the ball back to Ethan, who scanned the field. The Hawks' secondary was out of position. Ethan saw his Chauncey receiver, Tyler, breaking free down the sideline. He threw, the ball soaring 40 yards. Tyler caught it at the 10-yard line and dove into the end zone as time expired. The stadium exploded. Final score, 33-27. Ethan stood, chest heaving, as his teammates rushed the field. Some slapped his back. Others, like Brody, hung back, their faces unreadable. The crowd's cheers drowned out the boos, but Ethan felt the divide. He'd won the game, but not their acceptance. He jogged to the sidelines, where Jamie and Sarah waited. Sarah pulled him into a hug, tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you," she said. Jamie grinned, but his eyes held a question, "Are you okay?" Ethan wasn't sure. The victory felt hollow when half the team still saw him as less. He glanced at Jamie, wanting to say everything how much he cared, how scared he was. But the moment passed as Coach Harrison called the team to the locker room. Inside, the celebration was muted. Ethan overheard Brody talking to a group of players. "One game doesn't change who he is," Brody said, his voice low. Ethan's stomach twisted. He'd given everything, and it still wasn't enough. He slipped out, needing air, and found Jamie waiting by the bleachers. "You were incredible," Jamie said, stepping close. "They don't deserve you." Ethan's throat tightened. "I just wanted to prove I'm still me," he said. "But it's like they'll never see past it." Jamie hesitated, then took Ethan's hand, his touch warm and steady. "I see you," he said, "and I'm not going anywhere." For the first time all night, Ethan felt a spark of hope. He squeezed Jamie's hand, the unspoken feelings between them growing louder. But as they stood there, a shadow fell over them. Brody and a few teammates approached, their expressions hard. "This isn't over, Carter," Brody said, his voice cold. "You think one touchdown makes you a hero?" Ethan straightened, meeting Brody's gaze. "I don't need to be a hero," he said. "I just need to be me." Brody smirked and walked away, leaving Ethan and Jamie in the empty stadium. The lights began to dim, and Ethan realized the real fight was just beginning. The next week was a gauntlet. Westfield High buzzed with talk of the game, but Ethan's victory didn't erase the whispers. In the hallways, some students high-fived him, calling him a legend. Others turned away, their silence louder than words. The team's division deepened. Malik and a few others started sitting with Ethan at lunch, but Brody's clique grew louder, spreading rumors that Ethan's win was a fluke. The state championship was a week away, and Ethan knew he'd have to fight for every inch of respect. At home, Ethan's mom tried to keep things normal, cooking his favorite lasagna and asking about school. But Ethan saw the strain in her eyes. She'd been fielding calls from angry parents, some demanding Ethan be removed from the team. They don't know you, she said one night, squeezing his hand. You're more than their hate. Ethan wanted to believe her, but the weight was crushing. He found solace with Jamie, who met him every evening at the park near their houses. They'd sit on the swings, talking about everything but football, music, college dreams, the future. One night, under a sky streaked with stars, Jamie's voice softened. I've been thinking about us, he said. About what you said in that text. Ethan's heart skipped. He'd avoided the topic since the leak, afraid of what it meant. I didn't mean for it to come out like that, he said, staring at the ground. But it's true. I care about you, Jamie. More than I can say. Jamie's smile was shy but warm. I care about you too, he said. I've known it for a while. I just didn't know how to say it. They sat in silence, the confession hanging between them like a fragile thread. Ethan wanted to lean in, to close the gap, but fear held him back. What if this made things worse? What if Jamie got caught in the crossfire of the team's hate? But Jamie's hand found his, and the warmth steadied him. We'll figure it out, Jamie said. Together. The championship game loomed, and practice was a battlefield. Brody challenged every call Ethan made, undermining him in front of the team. Coach Harrison stayed silent, letting the tension fester. Ethan pushed through, running drills with precision, but the team's lack of unity was glaring. Malik pulled Ethan aside after practice. Some of us have your back, he said. But Brody's stirring up trouble. He's trying to get the team to vote you out before the game. Ethan's stomach dropped. Can they do that? Not officially, Malik said. But if enough guys refuse to play with you, Coach might bench you again. Ethan felt the walls closing in. He'd fought too hard to be sidelined now. That night, he called Jamie, his voice shaking. I don't know if I can keep doing this, he said. Maybe I should quit. Don't, Jamie said fiercely. You're better than them, Ethan. Not just at football, at everything. Show them what you're made of. Inspired, Ethan spent the next day rallying the team's silent supporters. He talked to Tyler, the receiver who'd caught the winning pass, and a few linemen who'd stayed neutral. I'm not asking you to like me, Ethan said. I'm asking you to play with me. We can win this together. Slowly, a few nodded, their resolve strengthening. The day before the championship, Brody confronted Ethan in the locker room. You're tearing this team apart, he spat. Why don't you just leave? Because I belong here, Ethan shot back. And I'm not going anywhere. Brody's face twisted, but before he could respond, Malik stepped between them. Back off, Brody, he said. Ethan's our quarterback. Deal with it. A few others murmured agreement, and for the first time, Ethan felt a shift. Not everyone was on his side, but enough were. The championship game arrived, and the stadium was a sea of red and white. Ethan stood on the field, nerves electric. The opponent, the Columbus Titans, was undefeated, their defense a wall of muscle. Ethan glanced at the stands, where Jamie and Sarah held a sign, "We believe in you." He took a deep breath, ready to fight. The championship game was a war. The Titans came out swinging, their quarterback launching a deep pass that put them up 7-0 in the first quarter. Ethan rallied the Wolves, calling plays with a calm he didn't feel. His first pass was intercepted, and the Titans scored again, making it 14-0. The crowd's cheers turned to groans, and Ethan felt Brody's glare from the sidelines. Don't choke now, Carter, he seemed to say. Ethan shook it off. focusing on the next drive. He handed off to Malik, who powered through for a 12-yard gain. Then Ethan threw a short pass to Tyler, who dodged a tackler for a first down. Slowly, the Wolves found their rhythm. Ethan scrambled for a 15-yard run, diving to avoid a hit. By the end of the second quarter, he'd thrown a touchdown pass to Malik, narrowing the score to 14-7. At halftime, the locker room was tense but different. Malik and Tyler rallied the team, shouting encouragement. Even Coach Harrison, usually stoic, nodded at Ethan. "Keep it up, Carter," he said. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. Brody stayed silent, his arms crossed, but Ethan didn't care. He was playing for himself, for Jamie, for his mom, not for Brody's approval. The third quarter was a grind. The Titans' defense tightened, sacking Ethan twice. Pain flared in his shoulder, but he gritted his teeth and kept going. He called a screen pass, catching the Titans off guard, and Malik ran it in for another touchdown. The score tied at 14-14, and the crowd roared. Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. They could do this. In the stands, Jamie clutched Sarah's hand, his heart pounding with every play. He'd never seen Ethan so fierce, so alive. But he also saw the toll it was taking, the hits, the glares, the weight of proving himself. Jamie wanted to tell Ethan everything, to say the words they'd both danced around. But for now, he cheered, his voice hoarse, willing Ethan to keep fighting. The fourth quarter was chaos. The Titans scored a field goal, taking a 17-14 lead. With 5 minutes left, Ethan led a desperate drive. He threw a risky pass to Tyler, who caught it at the 20-yard line. The Wolves were in striking distance. Ethan called a quarterback sneak, powering through the line for a first down. The clock ticked down to minutes. 1 minute. On third down, he threw to Malik in the end zone, but a Titans defender batted it away. Fourth down. 10 seconds left. Ethan called a final play, a Hail Mary pass. The team lined up, the crowd on its feet. The ball snapped, and Ethan dropped back, dodging a rusher. He saw Tyler break free, streaking toward the end zone. Ethan threw with everything he had, the ball soaring through the air. Time seemed to stop as Tyler leaped, arms outstretched. He caught it, tumbling into the end zone as the buzzer sounded. Touchdown. Final score, 20-17. The stadium erupted. Ethan's teammates mobbed him, even some who'd shunned him before. Malik lifted him off the ground, laughing. "You did it, man," he shouted. Ethan grinned, but his eyes searched the stands. Jamie was there, tears streaming down his face, cheering louder than anyone. As the team celebrated, Ethan broke away, running to the bleachers. He climbed the steps 2 at a time, reaching Jamie and Sarah. He hugged his mom, then turned to Jamie, his heart pounding. "I couldn't have done this without you," he said, his voice breaking. Jamie's eyes shone. "I love you, Ethan," he said, the words spilling out. Ethan froze, then pulled Jamie into a hug, not caring who saw. "I love you too," he whispered. The crowd's cheers faded as Brody approached, his face unreadable. Ethan braced himself, but Brody extended a hand. "Good game," he said gruffly. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. The weeks after the championship were a whirlwind. Westfield High crowned Ethan a hero, the local paper splashing his photo across the front page. Quarterback leads Wolves to glory. But the victory didn't erase the scars. Some students still whispered, and Brody's clique kept their distance. Ethan didn't care. He'd found something stronger than their hate, his own truth, and the love he shared with Jamie. At school, Ethan and Jamie walked the halls together, no longer hiding their feelings. They held hands sometimes, ignoring the stares. Malik and Tyler became their allies, shutting down anyone who dared throw a slur. Slowly, the school began to shift. A few students started a GSA club, inspired by Ethan's courage. Even Coach Harrison, in his gruff way, apologized for benching Ethan. "I was wrong," he said, eyes on the floor. "You're a hell of a player." Ethan's mom threw a small party at their house, inviting Jamie, Malik, and Tyler. They laughed over pizza, the tension of the past months fading. Sarah raised a glass, her voice steady. "To my son," she said, "and to all of you, for standing by him." Ethan caught Jamie's eye, his heart full. One evening, Ethan and Jamie returned to the park, sitting on the same swings where they'd confessed their feelings. The air was warm now, spring creeping in. "I was scared," Ethan admitted, kicking the dirt. "Scared of losing everything football. You. Myself." "You didn't lose," Jamie said, his voice soft. "You won. Not just the game, but you." He leaned over, kissing Ethan gently. It was their first kiss, tentative but real, under the same stars that had witnessed their fears. Ethan smiled, the weight of the past lifting. He'd been rejected, benched, and hated, but he'd fought back not with fists, but with every pass, every step, every moment he chose to be himself. The school wasn't perfect, and neither was the team, but Ethan had flipped something bigger, the idea that he had to hide to belong. As they walked home, hand in hand, Ethan realized the last second wasn't just the game-winning throw. It was every choice he'd made to stand tall, to love openly, to keep going. And in that, he'd changed more than the scoreboard changed Westfield High.